being cynical, if you look in the, on Wikipedia or in the dictionary, is seeing the world as being full of selfishness everywhere. Seeing selfishness in every person, in every corporation, thinking that everything is a lie, that it's all full of crap and there's nothing we can do. That's being very, very cynical. And I would say the more you know and the more you learn about the environment, sometimes it's really hard to not be cynical, right? You hear about what some corporations do, and it's hard to just kind of stay positive. So cynicism is the opposite of hope. You know what hope is. I'm going to try, at the end of this crazy little presentation where I'm going to do a bunch of voices and I might even sing, who knows what's going to happen. I'm going to try and have you feel some kind of hope that what you're doing is a good thing. So we'll see where it goes. I usually tell Mike I have no idea exactly where it's going to go, but I'm going to start with a slide. These are my two daughters, yeah, that's good. That's Vivian and that's Ellen. And as I said before, I used to make shows, and then I've made people with a great deal of help from my wife, who had a lot to do with these kids. But I realized after a while, after I've been performing for 20 years, and I had them about 10 years ago, that I had become very cynical. And the way you are as a parent, you realize your kids take on a lot of that. And I could tell that I was not being the person I wanted to be in the eyes of my kids. I was kind of grumpy all the time. I was thinking, I was just not radiating hope. I wasn't making their eyes light up. And someone said, what's the true definition of success? I think success is how many people's eyes light up around you. That's one definition that you probably won't read. You certainly won't hear about in your economics textbooks. And you probably won't hear about it in marketing either, which is another thing we're going to talk about today. So my kids have seen me do all sorts of crazy stuff, okay? I am primarily an artist. So I'm also an artist who tries to make a living in a profession that sometimes is tricky. So in this case, these are my kids when they were younger, obviously. I started working for corporations, hosting their corporate awards nights because I could speak English and French. I could sing and I could dance. I could dress up like Joan Rivers in this case. You might know from the Oscar ceremonies that annoying woman with so much plastic surgery. Can we talk? That's Joan Rivers. She's horrible. Anyway, they wanted me to be that for their corporate event because they thought it would be fun for their salespeople. And then I could congratulate them for having sold this and that amount of sales for that particular quarter and having exceeded expectations, blah, blah, blah. I was an actor for hire, and I used to do that stuff. I don't anymore. I'll get to that later. This stuff was more along the lines of what I like to do. That's me under 4 hours of chin. Do any of you recognize a former prime minister? I don't know how up you are on history. Do you? Yeah. Okay. That's Mr. Brian Mulroney. I did this film, because I sometimes do films when this project is right, called Mulroney the Opera. He was prime minister right around the time Ronald Reagan was prime minister in the United States. You might have heard of Reagan, maybe even more than Mulroney. Mulroney is seen by most Canadians as a bit of a crook, for pretty good reasons. But I was asked to do this weird film about Mulroney the Opera, because he was kind of a larger-than-life character who, you could say he embezzled money, but he was also an Irishman who liked to tell a good joke and who liked to have a beer. He was a fun, interesting person who happened to be our prime minister, and he got elected in the largest majority in Canadian history at the time. People loved him. They loved his wife, Mila. And then it sort of all went a certain way. He was prime minister for about 10 years, so it kind of went downhill, one would say. Anyway, they made this film, and they cast me as the actor. I'll show you a little bit of it, because it's all related to my career. Everything I do is sort of connected.
Show my human side, my romantic side. That day at the country club pool.
So we were making fun of Brian Mulroney a little bit, but the point after was to do Jean Chrétien the opera, maybe Trudeau the opera, and to basically do something that Canadians would learn a little bit about history, having a bit of a laugh, but also through entertainment. And that's kind of what I do. I try to educate through entertainment. There are a lot of teachers out there. You have 3 in the back, I see, or 3 or more. I bring a storyteller's ability to put on voices and masks and do certain funny things, but I also come at it through stories, which I think a lot of times we don't get enough of in our education system. Another thing I do, this is maybe a little more disturbing. 2 friends of mine wrote a horror rock and roll musical. And I thought it'd be an interesting challenge to sing like a heavy metal singer and scare school children. So this is the short film they made that won awards all over the world, believe it or not. Here's a look at what it is. I'll turn it up nice and loud for you here. Wait, that's just a picture of me. Again, more 4 hours of other makeup, but there you go. Brace yourselves. Anyway, that's another way to make a living. It's available on YouTube if you're interested. It's actually a really good short horror film. And I used to think, I don't want to do anything stupid like a horror film. And then you actually be part of it and you realize that there's a lot of, it's an interesting experience. I'm open to everything at this stage of my career. I think there are great artists doing sometimes very bizarre things, but often you'll learn a lot being put through this process, and I'm into learning above all else. Even from people of your age, I can learn a lot from you. Moving on, well, I'm going to skip that because that'll come later. I do a lot of cartoon voices as well. I don't know, you might have younger brothers or sisters that watch this show. That's me. I'm Bungo. That's, anyway.
Hey guys, check it out. I made a card for Matt. It's got a soccer ball and a grilled cheese sandwich and a really tall slide. And inside is a picture of Matt and me.
Anyway, that's the kind of stuff I do sometimes. I actually did a recording earlier today. I was this guy. That was my voice. Another crazy green hyperactive creature.
That sounded a lot like the other one he was...
Anyway, that's Sparky. Well, just to show you that you can't quite plan a life. You never know where it's going to take you. And the more you plan a life, sometimes with a very particular destination in mind, and if you're not flexible to where life will take you, you might end up being disappointed. I had no idea that I'd end up voicing green aliens in my career, and yet it's been this lovely thing that a lot of kids, clearly when they were younger, enjoyed. But mostly I'm known to create solo performances, and these solo shows are usually all about 75 minutes. They're about completely different things, but they all have this feeling of people having lived through something together. You asked me what religion means before, big question. The word religion comes from religio, which means linking people together. In this play, I grew up Catholic. This was me exploring my whole Catholic baggage. My mother, who's at church every day, the fact that I don't necessarily believe the same things she does, what does it mean? And how can we get atheists, Jews, Muslims, agnostics in a room together, and Christians, and live something meaningful? And we did that through that show. It won all sorts of awards around the world. I toured it everywhere. This show is The Simpsons Do Macbeth. Now, Homer, do any of you watch The Simpsons anymore? Anyone still watch it? Okay, you know what it is. Yeah, most you know what I'm talking about.
I've actually heard Mac Homer several times. That's you.
Yeah, that's me.
That's cool.
That's my show.
I love it.
Yeah, Mac Homer was The Simpsons Do Macbeth. I could do I'll do a one. You want me to do 1 minute of it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a full-on multimedia show with 100 light cues, smoke and fog and all that business. I'm just going to do a few of the voices here so you get a taste of the kind of craziness. But the idea was I was going to take something serious like Shakespeare, twist it around, and see if I can turn it into something not only entertaining, but perhaps educational for people who hate Shakespeare. And a lot of people your age, if I asked who here hates Shakespeare, you'd probably go, you'd probably raise your hand if you were being totally honest, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so Mac Homer. Here are 12 Simpsons characters doing a little clips of Mac Homer. A tale of sorcery.
Arr! When shall we three be meeting again? In thunder, lightning, arr! In rain, ha-har, ha-har!
Yeah, when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and, won.
Well, that will be ere the set of sun. Where the place?
Upon the heath.
There to meet with Mac Homer.
God, don't say that, it's bad luck.
A tale of royalty.
What bloody name is that?
The worthy Thane of Ross, sir. Oh, hello, I'm actor Troy McClure. You might remember me from other Simpsons Do Shakespeare classics, such as Othello and, Hamlet.
Excellent.
A tale of illusion.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? Or a pizza? Out, damn spot! Out, I say!
A tale of debauchery.
Ah, was it so late, friend, that you went to bed? You do lie so late.
Faith, sir, we were carousing till the second cock. Uh-oh, school show. Shouldn't have said that word.
Oh boy. And finally, a tale of murder. Hey there, strangers, what's with the old trapperoni? Let it calm down. Bring it down, man. Treachery, fly, good plans, flabbly diddly. Now, he's not shutting up. Stick an axe in his head, man. Okay, flabbly diddly. Anyway, I can go on and on. That's
Again, who would have thought I'd be doing that with my master's in architecture? Okay, moving on to Bigger Than Jesus. I'll just show you a few pictures right now because it was a show I created with Daniel Brooks, who's one of Canada's top theater creators, and I had the pleasure and the honor of being able to work for 3 years on this play. And again, like I said, it dealt with something that was pretty serious for a lot of people, but it did so in a way that really uplifted everyone, even people who had no connection to religion at all. And we did it by a combination of very simple technology, media, sometimes a lot of humor, and well, you know what, I don't really have time to show you the clip from it, but I'll just show you a minute of this, okay? There's a lot of singing and puppetry in the play too.
Je sais que tu es là.
Oh yeah, it's in French, I'm sorry.
Avec moi, dans moi, la main du Père guide mon destin. Le sable bouge, serpent s'approche, puis-je me rendre jusqu'à la fin? Père, je ne veux pas boire cette coupe empoisonnée. Dis-moi que mes 33 ans n'ont pas été gaspillés. J'avance petit à petit vers un sort périlleux. Je ne suis qu'un homme, je ne peux pas questionner Dieu et sa volonté.
I'm going to move on because we're actually not here to talk about Bigger Than Jesus, but I just wanted to show you that sometimes playing with toys is actually a very interesting way to make, you know, we're very playful as kids. A lot of you probably played with things like Playmobil, Star Wars action figures, so maybe in our case, and I just happen to make a living still doing it, that's all. But no, I think seriously, playfulness is something we lose. And we also lose our creativity that we have as little kids. And whether you're in an environmental club or in a science club, creativity is the basis of a lot of what makes the world great and what makes the world bearable, to be frank. So I look at my kids play, and I sometimes wish I could play as freely as they still do. And I encourage you all, tap into what is playful in you. And whether you're crusading about the environment, about anything, use it in whatever work you end up with, including your teachers back there. Being creative, you know that's part of how it is to try and teach. And it's incredibly important. And it's why I teach a class at the University of Toronto now. A class, it's an interdisciplinary class, meaning I have 3 music students, 3 film students, 3 theater students, and 3 visual arts students. We get together for a year and we make stuff. We try to be creative and learn that, you know what, if you step out of your bubble for a little bit, you can learn a lot from that other bubble. And so our class is about stepping back, looking at creativity as a whole, and trying to get everyone to be more creative than they already are. So, moving on to this. This is kind of what I wanted to talk to you about today, mostly, because this play, I think, relates most directly to why you gather on Tuesday, or what day are we today? Wednesday afternoons. And why you spend your time, you know, wearing gloves and recycling around the school. Hard Sell is a play I wrote about a much more difficult subject to me than religion, in the sense that religion, you can have a distance to it. One can adopt a certain, okay, that's religion, that's for other people. Marketing, on the other hand, you can't have a distance to it unless you want to go live in a tree in a field. You simply cannot take a distance from it. All we do all day is try to sell in some way or another. Me standing right here, right now, showing you how clever and interesting I am, you could say that's a sell. You coming here and showing that you have an interest in the environmental club, maybe that's partly a sell too. Your teachers trying to convince you to learn this and learn that, they have to be good at selling. It's what we do, but it's how you look at it in the end that determines how you live in the world. So that's why I think it's really important. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the environment through this. But this was a show I created also to show that failure is not the end of anything. Failure, we have a really bad look at failure. Just, I think, the way we look at success and failure in very distorted ways. Failure, to me, is never an end. It is, if anything, part of a process that is ongoing. I think when people feel they fail, they feel it's all lost. And in my career, in the way that these shows evolve, we always fail. We're creating something, that's kind of stinks. The next day we come back, we try to fail a little bit less every day. And that's how you make things. That's also how you make a life. You find not every day goes like this, right? Some days you're just down there. And that's not bad. That's just normal. And it's hard to, it seems obvious, but a lot of us, either through parental pressure or through academic pressure, we feel we've got to be up here all the time. Damn it, if I'm not up here all the time, I need to take a pill to keep me up there all the time. It's just not the way it works. You've got to feel more of this kind of success, failure, and that way you're sort of flowing a little more easily with the things that life will throw at you. Hard Sell, in some ways, was a failure because as a play, in its first version, 1.0, it didn't sell. It was a hard sell. We did it. It left people with a very cynical feeling, kind of feeling a little bit disturbed at the end of it. And then it wasn't selling. So what do? You've made something for 3 years that is not selling. Does it die? I'm too stubborn to let something die. I decided to make a 2.0 version that had a bit of a different look. And I'm going to give you probably a 20-minute condensation of that 2.0 version right here, without all the costumes and the makeup and the set. But it started with me, as I was doing today, giving a lecture. And part of that lecture was talking about what this show is about. So Hard Sell is about the cell, like I said before, S-E-L-L. But it's also about the cell, C-E-L-L. What do these two things have in common? What do biology and marketing have in common? Well, in order for a cell to survive in the world, it needs to what? To replicate, make copies. Same thing with a cell. If my iPhone did not have a really good advertising campaign, or if they were not able to make many more of them and keep making more at sometimes disastrous costs, it wouldn't have survived. You need to sell to survive in a very simple way. So our first iteration of the show was hosted by, hey, that's me, my friends. My name is Arnie. Look at that handsome son of a bee. Oh my God. You like that? Can I swear in this? I promise I won't swear. That's okay. I am far more exciting than Rick, who's been talking to you. My name is Arnie, and I am a showman. And that's who was hosting Hard Sell. Arnie is a voice in my head. A voice in your head? Come on, I'm here. 100 trillion cells pulsing with life and vitality. Look at your smiles light up. Come on, that's what you want. You want to be sold to, right? I decided Arnie was the problem with Hard Sell 1.0 because he was a cynic. And that's the reason it wasn't selling. So I decided to take over Hard Sell. Boring! Okay. I decided to take over Hard Sell and say that I have something to say. And here's what I have to say. All of the problems of the world today, whether you look at the conflict in Syria, or the controversy that's happening in Sochi right now in Russia, or the oil sands and the Keystone Pipeline, everything, all these problems are compounded by, are made worse by this idea of the cell, advertising, institutionalized, accepted lying all around us. Now the truth is that, well, thousands and hundreds and thousands of corporations around the world, they spend billions of dollars to buy the smartest, most creative minds in the room and around the world today, so that these people can then use their considerable money, power, and smarts to get into your heads and the heads of my children. Why? So that as we grow older, we can become consumers of the products provided by the corporations, no matter what the ecological, psychological, or physiological consequences. And they're so good at this that they're always able to distract us from all these other problems in the world and prevent us sometimes from thinking clearly, from feeling deeply, from speaking coherently, and from seeing that we are all part of this crazy game called the Hard Sell. There. I would now like to thank the sponsor for this afternoon's performance of Hard Sell, BMO Financial Group. At BMO, we truly believe in providing the kind of sustained support that liberates Canada's artists to concentrate on the advancement of the art form. Thank you, BMO. Thank you, BMO. Really, I mean it. Honestly, because without BMO, I wouldn't be here doing this today, probably. BMO funded the first development of the theater, Factory Theater. BMO was also the funder of the co-producer of the play, Daniel Brooks' company, Necessary Angel. My company, Weird Productions, does its banking with BMO. I do my banking with BMO. My wife does her banking with BMO. And thanks to a recent BMO promotion aimed at the parents of young children, my children now do their banking at BMO as well. I am on BMO.com at least, I don't know, twice a day, moving money around, trying to keep the whole ship afloat. I go to the BMO website and I see stuff like this. On the environment, in August 2010, we announced that BMO was carbon neutral across our enterprise worldwide. Great. But then, Arnie takes over, right? Arnie goes around poking it on the internet. What does he find? He goes to this website here, which is funded by these organizations, right, including Greenpeace. He sees that BMO, in that same year, its total bank fossil fuel financing was $30.3 billion in 2010. CO2 from the total financed emissions because of that money, 97 million tons of CO2. What are you supposed to do with that? Who's right, who's not? But then you realize that when they're talking about carbon neutral, they mean the buildings, the bank buildings, right? And they put in solar panels and stuff to make it green. Fine. What is the rest of the 99% of their carbon footprint comes from where they put their money, our money. And most of it goes to fossil fuel financing, whether you like it or not. But hey, all right, BMO, I'm going to go away. I'm going to go down the road to CIBC. Well, good luck, because BMO's 98, CIBC 101 millions of tons, 87 for Scotia, TD 124, RBC 198, ding, 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 ding. That was in 2010, according to that website. So, hey, what are you going to do? What does Rick do? His little halo on his head? What does Rick do? Well, Rick makes a certain amount of money doing his various work, theater, acting, and all that. He works for these unions pay him, and they get money for him. And he's told his unions to invest them in these institutions into something called green funds. Now, does Rick know exactly where this money goes and what green means exactly? No. But hey, at a certain point, you gotta give up, right? There's nothing you can do. You can only go so far. Does he feel good about it, Rick? Okay, well, I feel at least I'm doing something. Because something is better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. You'll probably hear that a lot from Rick. Sorry, Rick. Go on. Oh, no, let's actually look at this. Let's look at this. These are the 2011 rankings of the top 1,000 Canadian companies by profit. Okay? Top 10, top 5, 5 banks. The 5 big Canadian banks. With profits ranging from $2.4 billion to $5.2 billion. In a recession, mind you. Let's go south of the border where the game is even more fun. Here are the top companies by net worth. In other words, what they represent, what they are worth to the world. Top of the list, after Apple, is ExxonMobil. I think Apple's actually exceeded it right now, but anyway, it doesn't matter. ExxonMobil, the oil company, okay? Now, ExxonMobil has a net worth of $414 billion. That's more than the GDP, the gross domestic product, of 75% of the countries in the world. This is a very big corporation, and you do not mess with Exxon. And you go on their website, what do you see? Environmental performance. As one of the leading petroleum and natural gas companies, ExxonMobil takes our environmental responsibilities very seriously. Aha! Uh-oh! I just unplugged the projector. That's not good. Hold on. Ah, geez. All right. Make sure we didn't blow up the bulb. Anyway, I'll read from here while we get the projector turned on again. Then you go to political involvement, also called lobbying. And it says, in 2010, ExxonMobil reported lobbying expenses totaling $12.4 million in its Public Lobby Disclosure Act. That's what they said they spent. The biggest lobby in the history of all lobbies. Now, what do they use this money for? What does lobbying mean? You tell the government what you think they should do. Well, I'll show you this picture right here. He'll come up in a minute. Rex Tillerson, the CEO of ExxonMobil, has said this. At a minimum, there's an enormous amount of uncertainty around this whole question of global warming. I'll say it again. At a minimum, there's an enormous amount of uncertainty around this whole question of global warming. Did it just turn off again? No, it's going to turn off. Go on. It's going to go on in just a second. Green light flashing. It'll come. It'll be there, I swear. You'll see Rex Tillerson's lovely face come up in just a few seconds, right? Is a giant corporation. It's a behemoth, as they say, whose marketing strategy is usually to say no comment in 50 official languages. But we also know where that money goes, right? So what are you supposed to do with this stuff? Well, Rick, what does Rick do? When he looks for gas, he looks for this sign, an ExxonMobil company. Why? Why? Because Rick likes to get aeroplane miles. Why? Because Rick has a speed pass too, and it saves him 7.3 seconds every time he fills up. Very good. He also gets an Air Canada Elite card. What does this mean? Well, it allows him certain privileges when he flies. It means he can take his kids to these fancy lounges. It means he can do priority boarding and get ahead of everybody else. It also means he occasionally gets to sit in these bad boys. You ever sat in one of these? My friends, you never want to go back. I swear. That's why he does it. Oh yes, and Rick always has time for Tim Hortons. That's why he shops at Esso. So last year,
Rick drove for about 20,000 kilometers. Let's see, at about 6 liters per 100 kilometers. How much would gas give? He spent about $1,500 and put it into ExxonMobil's vast coffers into their bank account. How does he justify this, my friends? Rick, go ahead.
Well, I drive a Toyota Prius, an electric or hybrid electric vehicle.
Good for you, Rick! Yay! Good for you! Put your little halo on, walk around, go talk to environmental clubs. Yay! Aren't you a hero? Yeah. Look, it's hard, okay? I told you before, it's hard. It's hard to navigate this kind of thing when you've even got yourself telling you that you're full of crap, okay? And yet, for the last 12 years, I've driven a hybrid because I thought at least I'm trying to do something about the fact that I still drive too much and that we're still dependent on oil. It's not everything, but it's something, and something is better than nothing. This is my agent, my acting agent. How do most actors make money? I'll ask you this. What do they do to make a lot of quick money? Anyone have an idea? Commercials. Yes, they do commercials. Commercials, especially national commercials, pay a lot of money for a very short amount of work. I told my agent, I'm not going to do commercials. Oh wait, except for one commercial. Okay, I did one. Yeah, you did one commercial in French in Quebec so that nobody would see it here. You want to see this commercial? I'll show you. You'll love commercials. All right, here we go. Great acting in this one.
Il n'y a pas de doute, j'ai fait le bon choix. Merci. Merci.
5 checks, 5 years in a row, every January for that incredible work he did in that commercial. Okay. I told my agent no more commercials. All right, I did that one. I tried it. I don't want to do commercials. Will they keep making commercials? Yes. Will other actors keep doing that, what I'm doing? Yes. But it means I have to lie a little bit less. Next. Doesn't mean I'm innocent. As I said before, I dressed up like Joan Rivers. I worked for a lot of corporations, mostly pharmaceutical corporations, doing anything they would ask me to do. I dressed up like Ricky Martin, like Freddie Mercury. I danced, I swam, I took my shirt off. I did anything they would want me to do for their big awards nights because I'm an entertainer. And I worked for all the major pharmaceutical corporations, the people that make the lovely chemicals that we put in our bodies. Bayer, GlaxoSmithKline, Merck Frost, Pfizer, Novartis. Here's a little hard sell trivia, my friends. Which pharmaceutical company illegally marketed their blockbuster drug Zyprexa to children, despite evidence of severe weight gain in these children and metabolic disorders? Here's the drum. Anyone have an idea? Hint number 1. Former U.S. President George H.W. Bush sat on this corporation's board of directors, as did Kenneth Lay, the Enron chief convicted of fraud before his death. Hint number 2. Bush's son, W. Well, he hired a director of management named Mitch Daniels, who was the CEO of this corporation at the time, also now governor of Indiana, the corporation's home state. Hint number 3. Bush then hired Sidney Torrell, the current CEO of that company, onto his Homeland Security Advisory Council. What did Torrell try to do? He tried to put a provision into the Homeland Security Act that protected that corporation from harmful lawsuits by angry parents. Wow! Anyone have an idea where that comes from? Who is that? What corporation? Anyone back there? Well, it's Lilly, my friends, also known as Eli Lilly. And here is Rick working for Eli Lilly, hosting one of their events. Our 3 core values: integrity, respect for people, and excellence guide Lilly in all that we do. Yeah. So I told my agent no more corporate events. Does that change a corporation? No. They will just hire someone else. Does it change me? Yes. It means I get to lie a little bit less. Moving on. This show. Have you heard of this show? Yeah, you like that show? Yeah. It's a piece of crap show, really. Isn't it? No? Look, I worked for the Just for Laughs Festival many years ago. I did a lot of their gala events where I would basically perform. I did one bit called Bohemian Rhapsody, performed by 25 of the most annoying voices in the music industry. You can check it out. It's had a couple million views. It's a silly thing, but I did that. They had me in their frame of mind. Then they wanted this show, which they had sold in 120 countries and 100 different airlines. They wanted to sell it in the United States. The gold mine, the nirvana of all countries to sell content to. ABC is a network in the United States. They wanted to buy that show, but they wanted a host. Just for Laughs said, no, it's a show with a laugh track and music. We don't need a host. It's cheaper that way. He said, no, the US people need a host.
So they hired this man, Sinbad.
Now, please welcome Sinbad.
Kind of funky over here. So let's get it started.
Okay, it didn't do very well. That show was actually, well, with Sinbad, it was called a focus group. They took it into a focus group. The panel did not like it, and so they had to think of a different way for that show to become the United States or to fit down there. So they hired me, some guy from Canada, to go down to LA for 24 hours to change clothes every 15 minutes and do something silly like this.
Every family has a joker. In our family, we have a whole team of them, and everyone's got a little trick up their sleeve. I'm Rick Miller, and welcome to Just for Laughs. It's Just for Laughs, the funniest hidden camera show in the world.
Okay, it's not the funniest hidden camera show in the world. Rick knows that. Did he do the job? Yes, because they threw him a contract that had a lot of zeros in it, okay? Now the problem there, it should be fine, it's just an innocent television show. The problem was that these were the producers. They own ABC. Rick says he didn't know that at the time. He did. Come on, right? Disney, at the time, was coming under intense scrutiny for not only their sweatshops in China, but also for the way they consolidate and control political power down in their home states, but more importantly, for the way they advertise to children under the age of 7. And everybody knows that children under the age of 7 are not able to comprehend televised advertising messages. They're prone to accept them as accurate, as truthful, and unbiased, and not a lie. But hey, did that stop Rick from signing a contract with Disney, even though they advertised to little children like his own? No, because they threw him a contract that said such magic as this. They own Rick in any and all media, now known and hereafter devised, in perpetuity and in all languages, in all versions and forms throughout the universe. That's Rick's signature right there. Whoa! Wait a minute, how do you justify that, Rick? It seems that you had a line in the sand that you drew, and all of a sudden the line shifted when enough cash was thrown your way, right? Does that make you a human being? That's the way the world works. That's the way it all works. Okay, it's not the way it works. That was a choice I made. We're faced with choices all the time. I made a choice. Luckily, the show got canned after a while, and I could tear up my contract. I felt a lot better at a certain stage. But yes, I signed it, and I made a choice. And you have a lot of choices as environmentalists, as citizens. You could choose to be an anarchist and blow everything up. You could choose to be a cynic like Arnie and make fun of everything. You could choose to be, I don't know, any regular Joe and swim in a constant stream of lies and crap, you know, and just consume and consume and consume because it's easier. It's generally a lot less work, and it usually pays a lot more money to not worry about this stuff. Or you can choose to at least understand and then confront and do something about the system. The way I tried to do, the way Bono tried to. Oh, friggin' Bono! Oh, he goes on and on about Bono. You know Bono? The singer of U2? Oh my God, I'm gonna do a little bit about Bono later, I promise. But Rick just talks about Bono is a celebrity, and he's at least trying to do things that I think are good. He's trying to raise awareness about certain things. He's trying to work with the system and to realize that the system that we live in, capitalism as we now know it, and corporations as we now know it, weren't started this way, but they've become these things that in a lot of ways have bought everything that makes democracy democracy. The government, the legislature, the people who make the laws, the media, and schools. They've all more or less been bought or are in the process of being bought. And you have to understand how capitalism works. The whole principle is about creative destruction, and I talked about being creative. A lot of capitalism works on people being creative. Creative destruction, old things breaking, new things buying, old things breaking, new things buying. That's the way it works. That's what feeds the system. You have to understand that that's a fact about capitalism, but it doesn't necessarily have to lead to where we're going today. Where we're going today, I would say, is you got a lot of people around the world, this is a couple of years old, but a lot of people saying that, you know what? There's something a little funny about 1% of the people owning 99% of the resources around the world. Oh, shut up, Rick. No, it's true. It's true. I think we have a big problem. When the biggest industry we have is the manufacture of bull, that is a problem. It's a big global problem. And I think that the idea behind this new form of capitalism, this unrestricted, unbounded capitalism, is growth for the sake of growth.
And growth for growth's sake is also the ideology of the cancer cell. That's what we have now. And it is a problem, and it makes what you do and what I do very, very difficult. Rick? Okay, whoa. I think you're starting to lose these fresh young minds here. You know, people don't want to see you losing your stuff and whining. I'm not whining, okay? I'm just trying, okay. Do you want me to carry on for a little? I can get the back. I'll entertain you. You want to hear voices? I can do voices, right? Here, I'll read from your script, Rick. No, hold on. All right, I'll carry on. Just take a breather, okay? Okay, let's see. Where was he? Oh, yeah, we did Eli Lilly Beamo. Oh, Dove. Oh, this is some good stuff. You know Dove? Who here buys Dove? You use Dove? It's okay. Don't be shy. All right, good. Well, you've probably seen this little thing that they did to entice you to buy Dove. Oh, yeah.
Younger, smaller, lighter, tighter, thinner, softer. It really works.
Ouch! Get this one. Talk to your daughter before the beauty industry does. Wait a minute. Isn't Dove the beauty industry? Okay, no, it's okay. But then you do a little research. You start digging around. And Rick says, well, I should go to the next slide. The next slide, what does it say? It says this is Unilever, the parent company of Dove. Unilever owns many brands, including Dove, but also Axe up there. Who here buys Axe? Axe. Well, you know the ads for Axe, right? I've taken these from around the world. They're not about the Dove self-esteem campaign, if anything. My gosh, they're about the opposite. Brace yourselves, kids. You don't write your parents about this, okay? You might find something shocking in the next few images. Uh-oh, it's getting worse. Now we're in Europe. Uh-oh, holy crap. And look at that one. Oh, no. Oh, whoa, that's Axe. Oh, my gosh. And here is the VP of Unilever saying, make no mistake, we're not in the business of philanthropy, of doing good. We're in the business of providing value to our shareholders. That's what we do. He said it. It's worth saying. Does that mean that they're not good people working at Dove to do good things for young girls as well as older women? Of course they are. They're great people, as Rick would say, working in great corporations doing great things. But they're also people doing Axe and telling young boys that if they just put that under their arms that all the girls will come running at them in bikinis, right? Hey, is that the way the world works? You want to think that way? You're going to be disappointed, my brothers, all right? Hey, come on in.
I am in.
You're all in. Come on, have a seat. We just showed a really sexy video, you know. It's okay. Hey, it's complicated, as Rick would say, and it's better that some people are doing something than nothing. Okay, he'll come back to that refrain. Oh, Apple. Oh, my gosh. I know exactly what he's going to say about Apple. Look, he's got the damn iPhone in his pocket. He's got the Mac computer running a keynote program here. He knows about Apple, that Apple is doing their best to reduce their packaging and reduce the amount of waste that they're producing and making sure that the millions of Chinese people that are making these darn things are suffering less human suffering and disease, blah, 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 blah. But everybody knows. Creative destruction, right? As soon as the darn thing breaks, as soon as there's a crack, you're like, thank God there's a crack, because now I can buy the new one. Hallelujah! There's death and there's resurrection. Hallelujah! 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 I've got an iPhone 5. Yay! Until there's an iPhone 6. I hate 5. I love 6. I love 6. I love 6. It's the way it works. Oh, and it's great. It's like a religious feeling when you buy this stuff, isn't it? You go to the cash, it's like, hallelujah. Oh, you open it out of the box. It's so well made. It's so well advertised. That's what it does. It makes you feel so good inside. All right, Rick, anything you want to say? Anything you want to add to that? Sorry if I've taken the piss. Oh, he's got a conclusion. Okay, what's your conclusion, Rick? I think advertising and corporations are not going away. And they don't have to be this particular way. We have to get corporations to be held accountable for what they do. And we have to get the good people in those corporations doing better things. Okay. So that we can create the world we want. The world we want! Okay, well, great. So why don't you go off with that positive message and go live the rest of your lives. Come on. All right, let me take over for a little bit, because you know what? Rick's right about one thing. Corporations need you, each and every one of it. They need you to love them deeply, beyond reason. They need to love them from an emotional point of view. That's the only way they survive, by needing you and by getting you to love them Hey, he's right, because something is better than nothing, and there's nothing you can do about it. Isn't that right, Rick? Well, this is when I take over the show. Rick takes off his shirt. I promise he won't get down to his bare chest. And he starts putting on a little makeup because he realizes that I have won. That's the way it was going to be. I have won. Arnie has won round one, and he's going to take over the rest of the show. And people are going to be a little entertained, but not before hearing one other boring speech from Rick. Rick, why don't you talk about your campaign for Because I Am a Girl? All right, well, Because I'm a Girl is this really great campaign that tries to get girls in the developed world here to try to raise awareness about girls in the developing world, to help them get an education. Because a lot of girls still have a lot of trouble getting an education. It's hard for us to realize that, but that's actually something we take for granted. And so I created this multimedia presentation to try and get girls here to have tools to be able to talk to each other and then to talk to other people, to talk to boys, to talk to their parents, their mothers, their fathers, their communities, to actually feel that they're actually doing something constructive. And the way I went about it was through this multimedia presentation called All About Eve. It's still available on the Because I'm a Girl website. Basically, it's a 10-minute presentation centered on a girl named Eve, and I think we're going to get to her here. Now, Eve is a girl about your age. How old are you guys? Maybe 15? Say she's about 15. And she looks in the mirror and looks at a lot of her screens, like a lot of us, and she realizes that she's being bombarded with so much information. And most of that information comes from these screens. What is the information doing? It's basically selling a lot of stuff to her. Because most of these screens are owned by large multinational corporations. And how do they sell more stuff to you? By telling you that you are the most important thing in the world, and that anything you want, you should have now, no matter what anyone else thinks. In other words, they're selling right to the brain cells. They're selling to the self. But when you realize that that's kind of confusing, you start to get a little, maybe cynical. Cynical. You look in the mirror and your brain is swirling with cynical thoughts, thinking, wait a minute, is that narcissism? Narcissism is bad, right, isn't it? But isn't self-esteem good? Doesn't it both mean that I'm proud of myself? Narcissism, I would say, is inward-looking. Self-esteem is outward-looking, but it's all very confusing. And Eve looks in the mirror, and her brain is swirling with these cynical thoughts. What can I do? What am I worth? Everybody is full of crap. I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do about it. Nothing. And it becomes a bit of a prison cell, isn't that right, Rick? And then your good friend Arnie takes over and takes the show into overdrive. I'm just waiting for this next slide. There we go. Arnie is coming soon to a slide near you. Come on, baby. He's coming, I swear. The tension is unbearable. I'm going to skip and get to him. Why is it not moving? Doesn't matter. There we go. I am Arnie, my friends. I am a showman. I'm a salesman, because we are cells that sell. That's the way the world works. We're all living in this magical world where everyone is selfish. Everything, biologically, culturally, it's all selfishness. We breed it. We love it. I'm free of Rick's pretentious idealism, of his righteous morality. Way more interesting than that SOB Rick. That's right. I'm free. I'm Arnie, and I'm going to take you on a little ride. If I had all my stuff, I do puppets, I do voices, I do dancing, I do everything. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of what I do. Heck, I even play the accordion. I do a little ventriloquism, hand puppets, and I talk about Coke. Wouldn't you like one of these right now? Oh, yeah. See, normally I do this after working very hard. I've only been up here for a couple of minutes, but I can start drinking this, because it's time to open happiness, my friends. Nothing like the taste of 10 spoonfuls of sugar down the pipes, huh? Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that you can dissolve a nail and metal in Coke in 4 days. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that cops sometimes use Coke at car accident scenes to wipe away blood. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that the Coca-Cola Corporation is a huge conglomeration of smaller cells like A&W, Barks, Bacardi, Canada Dry, Crystal Light, Dasani, Dr. Pepper, Fanta, Fresca, Fruitopia, Full Throttle, Five Alive, Hires, High C, Mellow Yellow, Minute Maid, Nature's Own, Nestea, Odwalla, Pib, Powerade, Schweppes, Seagram, Sprite, Squirt, Surge, and Tab. Everybody knows that. Cheers. Everybody knows that Coke pumps a lot of volumes of water in India, where potable water is scarce for millions of inhabitants. Everybody knows that Coke's been accused of hiring paramilitary security forces to murder, torture, detain trade union leaders at their bottling plants in Colombia. Everybody knows that. Cheers. You know what, folks? There's a hierarchy to product placement, okay? You get a certain amount, you know what product placement is in the movies and stuff, right? You get a certain amount of money if the product is visible, right? You get more money if the actor touches the product. You get a lot of more money if the actor drinks the product. And you hit your jackpot if the actor performs a heroic feat with the product in hand. There will be no heroic feat this afternoon. Coke didn't pay us a damn cent. As a matter of fact, they sent Rick a nasty little cease and desist letter. Rick's legal team, Mike, is wiping his butt with that letter at this moment. Don't worry, he'll throw that in the proper bin at the end of this thing. All right, folks, let's keep getting this party started, huh? You like Morgan Freeman? Rick does Morgan Freeman, you know? And Morgan Freeman can sell you anything. Do you know Morgan Freeman, the actor? You're still here. You said you were leaving after 10 minutes. How about that, eh? Maybe I got you in something. Okay. I can do a little Morgan Freeman, right? Because he can sell you anything. I wish I had a microphone, but I don't have one. So listen carefully. Hello, I'm Morgan Freeman, and I consist of over 100 trillion cells. Each of those cells, and every living cell on Earth, are all composed of one cell, a cell that lived over 3 billion years ago. Now that very first cell had an incredible ability, the ability to replicate. And replicating took a lot of work, so that cell needed to consume nutrients for energy. In other words, that first cell was a consumer. And what does one do to a consumer? One sells. One sells Rolex watches and Listerine mouthwash and iPhones and Morgan Freeman's celebrity cookbooks, Cooking for a Cause, volumes 1 and 2. And hey, if you got a product to sell, well, you might want to hire Morgan Freeman to sell it. Why? Because my rich, highly trained baritone voice has been extensively market tested by the Q-score system to connotate two things, credibility and respect. So if you want your product to be credible and respected, well, hey, you better hire Morgan Freeman to sell it. Case closed. I'm Morgan Freeman. That's Morgan Freeman. How about, do you recognize that voice? He's on Visa ads these days. He'll sell you anything. Morgan Freeman could read your school guidelines about, you know, blockades, and he'd sell the damn thing. You'd be like, oh my gosh, we should be blockaded. He's an amazing creature. And you know what? I just love doing it. I just love playing around with this stuff. Look, and now I told you I get to Bono. Freaking Bono. You know Bono? The singer of U2? You know the band U2? Somebody stop this guy. I mean, this guy saved Africa, my friends. He finally did it. Bono did it. He got all the billionaires and all the world leaders to hold hands and make a human chain around the continent and sing, "It's a beautiful day," in 8-part harmony. And next thing you know, tulips started growing everywhere. All the militias dropped their arms, and the AIDS virus was so moved, he decided to leave humanity alone once and for all. Thank you, Bono! Thank you, Bono! Freaking Bono. Rick wrote a song for Bono. It goes something like this. Light better. If you can keep your head when things fall apart, you can always, baby, you'll be mad, my son, 'cause I am the one. Let go of it, folks. Let go of all these idealistic pretensions. Stop meeting these environmental clubs. There's nothing you can do about it. Just put on a happy face, open up your little phone, and dive in. There's nothing you can do. You know what Rick said to Eve? Eve, that little girl looking in the mirror, was feeling all cynical. He said, it starts here, with a shift in perception. You take control of your life. You see, that was easy. Well, no, sometimes it takes a crisis to allow you to break out of the ordinary, to think outside the box. But when you do so, you learn to exceed your vision, to see the way the earth connects. You see yourselves powering change in the lives of those around you. Human energy is connecting people of all ages, all races, all sexes, touching lives, improving life. Welcome to gives you wings. It lifts and separates you. You and I were meant to fly. Oh, what a feeling! It's the happiest place on earth. It keeps going and going and going. It's the happiest place on earth. It's a taste of paradise, and it's yours to discover. Welcome to the human. You can do it. Yes, you can. I've screwed that up every single time I've done it. One of these days I'm gonna have to rehearse that little thing. Oh my gosh, but hey, you get the irony of that little bit, right? Hey, hard to navigate all those positive sentiments owned by corporations. But hey, we're near the end of our show. And when Rick took the show from me, I used to end it on a certain, what I felt, poetic note. You've heard of Shakespeare? Macbeth. It ends with a, well, it doesn't end, but towards the end, Macbeth leaves with this very parting thought. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I thought it was a pretty good end. I lay down in a pool of blood and I died. But somehow it left people with a strange feeling, and Rick felt that wasn't appropriate anymore. Now he then, well, I think what he did was he threw up a quote. He loves inspirational quotes. I'll let you read it. Probably a German. He loves Germans. Swiss, close enough. Anyway. And then he threw up a big idea. He loves big ideas, right? He said if the entire universe were condensed into a single calendar year, right, from January to December, when would the Big Bang be? Well, right at the stroke of midnight, right until January 1st. What about the sun? When would the sun be formed? August. What about the Earth? When would the Earth appear? September. What about the first cell? October. The first multicellular organism? December. What about the first mammals? Christmas Day. Dinosaurs would appear on Boxing Day. Unfortunately, they would leave us on December 30th. Bye-bye, dinosaurs. And what about the first human ancestors? When would they appear? January 31st. And what time? 11 p.m. Our hour on the stage. Even I had to admit that was a pretty good idea by Rick. It was pretty nice. Our hour on the stage. And then he would show a picture of the Earth, because he thinks it's important for us to see that picture every now and then and realize that we're all connected and all that. And that something maybe is better than nothing. And that's how I feel. I still feel that way. I decided, despite all of my hypocrisy, all of my contradictions, all of my flaws, all of my failures, that something is indeed better than nothing. Me going and doing this kind of thing is better than perhaps you not seeing anything at 4 o'clock this particular day. That maybe I have lit up a couple of people, maybe I've made you uncomfortable, maybe I made you squirm, maybe I've made you think, but hopefully some of you will think maybe a little bit differently about yourselves and your place in the world. I'm someone who recognizes that, look, I took a photo with Jack Layton. I didn't know he would become who he became when my daughter was young, but I realized that he wasn't perfect, but he was someone who did try. He tried pretty hard. And I'm trying. I try. Tomorrow I have this presentation at my daughter's school. We started this environmental club 8 years ago in an elementary school where they didn't even know what recycling was back then. And now we've got this whole, we're trying really, really hard to fight the board who doesn't really see the value of what we're doing. I don't know if any of you share that experience. Probably not at the TDSB. But in some boards, in the Catholic board, it's a harder struggle. So we're trying. We're trying. I try to give presentations at that school because I'm a communicator and I have stories to tell. And I just feel that it's better to try than not to try. I go sometimes to schools and I work with puppets. I'm not a particularly great puppeteer, but you know what? It makes the kids happy. And sometimes a lot of these kids don't get to see playfulness in action in a lot of adults. Speaking of playfulness, I play music as well. I'm in a band. I'm not the world's best musician or the best frontman, but we have a really fun band of a bunch of adults in our neighborhood. It's a community band who weren't creative at all anymore, but they used to play trumpet when they were younger. So now we've got this band where everyone, all these parents of all these kids, the kids are seeing their parents have fun and be creative again. And it's just a wonderful experience. And we're playing all these gigs, fundraising. It's so much fun. We're called Trainwreck, partly because I feel that we're on a bit of a train wreck sometimes, and yet it's better to slow down the train and to dance together and have a little bit of fun together and not always be all doom and gloom. I do watercolors. Hey, I've got my architecture degrees. I got to use them for something. My watercolors are basically
Usually charity paintings where I ask someone, is there a house that you think that your parents, maybe the place where your parents grew up, could we buy that as a gift, and instead of paying me, you'll pay a charity of your choice. So it's the kind of thing I'm trying to be creative about. How to use my skills and put it all together into a career. I teach this class at the university, trying to get all these students a bit out of their own box and to see things from a larger perspective. And in terms of the environment, well, I have all of these different shows that I've either done and I'm creating now. 20,000 Leagues here, I'll skip ahead a little bit. Boom. Well, no, Macdonald was about literacy in the sense of Shakespeare, traditional literacy. Bigger Than Jesus, I called it sociocultural literacy. Hard Sell, media, information literacy. Boom, historical literacy. We should know about history. We should know, or else we'll repeat the same mistakes. You should know that you're going to become your parents more than you think you will. And that's a useful thing to know at this stage of your lives. Environmental literacy, you're no strangers to that. Money, financial literacy. I see it all being, these are the tools we need to come at the world with. And you're going to have a lot of people telling you to specialize, to be good at one thing so that you can achieve this and that and that. I'm telling you, that's one point of view. Step back, learn about a lot of different things, and you come at a life with a lot more hats to wear, and when one hat feels uncomfortable, you're not screwed. You put on a different hat, and you take a different tactic. Macdonald, everything we're doing now has elements outside of the play, so we have these educational modules we created to help teachers teach Shakespeare. I go around to various classes, I do Shakespeare workshops, like I'm doing right now. Bigger Than Jesus, same kind of thing. I've done these TED Talks, I've done various things with all these shows that used to be only shows. I'm trying to explode that and do different stuff. Hard Sell used to be just a show, now it's this, and now it's a TV series. I can't show you what this TV series is, but we don't have time, maybe later. These kind of in-school media things. Mike, are you in that picture? Mike's a retired teacher who's going around doing this out of, the kindness of his heart, only because he likes what I do. And he wants to keep being involved with young people because you spent 25 years doing
31.
that. 31 years.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we do this because we like the people who bring us here, but we also like the students.
Can I also mention we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Steve?
For this? Yeah. That's right, Steve.
The Earth Day
Summit, that's right. I was doing a similar kind of thing at the Earth Day Summit. I'm sorry I didn't place that, but that's why we're here, right?
That's right.
Thanks to your, I'm sorry, we do a lot of these, so I sometimes forget where it comes from.
That's
but
why.
Thank you. That's the kind of leadership that is really, throw it out there. Who knows who's going to like this weird guy doing this sort of weird presentation? And yet, it just, again, takes you into a different kind of experience that you may not have planned. We just started this organization called the Campaign for Commercial-Free Schools. Mike's on the board as well. It's an organization, we just actually started our Twitter handle yesterday, and we got a bunch of followers at the school we were at yesterday. If you're on Twitter, follow us. It'd be great to keep getting more and more people knowing the kind of stuff we throw up there is really interesting. Ads from around the world, people saying that they don't advertise in schools, and yet the school is so hungry for money that they'll paint their whole computer room red so that they'll get Future Shop to give computers. Anyway, all this weird stuff that you're probably.
Upstairs.
What's that?
That's upstairs.
That's upstairs?
Yeah.
See, all that stuff it's difficult because schools need money, but we tend to advocate that governments should be paying for kids' education, not corporations. And that if a corporation wants to give money, great. Take their money. It's great. I'm glad they're doing it. But don't have their logos everywhere because that actually does different things to your brains. CCFS Canada is the Twitter thing. I'm Rick Miller, actor, on Twitter. Follow us, like us. You really will help us by doing that, I promise. And I don't know if we have a flyer to give, but we do. If anyone wants one of these flyers at the end, we've got a few. Boom, this new show, it's going to be playing all over Canada, including a run here in Toronto. It'll be the world premiere at Mervish Productions, downtown at the Panasonic. It's my new solo show about history, about the baby boom years, where I actually learned that I'm a lot like my parents. Moving on, I won't show you the bit about boom. I got to move to the environmental stuff. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is a play that started about water issues. Have you heard of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as a book? As a novel. It's a Jules Verne sort of sci-fi novel or kind of fantasy novel. It was written in 1867 and it predated the invention of the submarine and all this really cool stuff. I loved it as a kid, but now we're taking that old story and having it speak to water issues today because there are a lot of water issues and I could do a whole hour-long presentation on water issues like I do at my daughter's school. My partners and I have a network of 200 different websites that we've started to develop. Some of them are slowly becoming active, but it's part of a much larger vision that aims through entertainment to educate, enlighten, and empower young people because we feel that's what the world needs more of. So we have these videos that we developed. Here, I'll show you this one because it's related to water. You might tell me what you think of this.
Huh?
Shot in the do blues, shot in the do.
Captain Nemo, sir,
Yes, Jude.
we seem to have a problem.
It's a new webisode. We always have a problem.
But this one's pretty serious. We've run out of water.
Have we now?
Yeah, I was rinsing my toothbrush and it just, stopped.
It just, stopped. Captain, we have a big problem. Let me guess, you were taking a shower and the water stopped running. Huh? How did you know? You always take showers.
Yeah, several times a day.
Well, I like to feel fresh.
Nemo, we have a problem.
The water stopped running. Okay. Sorry to disturb you. I've been made aware of the problem, Monsieur Land, and I'm looking into it as we speak.
Cryptic.
Talk straight, Nemo. I want to get back to my bath. What I mean is that none of you understand the value of this, of the glass. No, you ninnies, of the water inside it.
Uh-oh, lecture time.
No, trivia time. Question number 1 for Jude. Is there more water, less water, or exactly the same amount of water on Earth today than there was in 1860?
Can I check my smartphone?
The answer is exactly the same. Water is a finite resource. It only changes form as it flows constantly on, above, or under the Earth in the hydrologic cycle.
That's logical.
Hydrological.
That's not funny.
Question number 2 for Professor Aronnax. What percentage of the water on Earth is salt water? Quite a lot, I would imagine. Perhaps I shall venture a guess, if I may. 97% of the water on Earth is salt water, completely undrinkable, leaving only 3% fresh water. I was going to say that. Sure you were. Question number 3 for Ned Land. Of the 3% fresh water on Earth, how much is locked in ice caps and glaciers? If I get it right, do I get to go back to my bath? 2/3. There is only 1% of Earth's water to sustain all human, animal, and plant life, and most of that water is underground. Bummer. Bonus question, winner takes all. I'm gonna kick your bucket, kid.
Water, you say. Get it? Water, you say.
Shh. Which country consumes the most fresh water per person? Well, that's easy. His country, the US of A. You are correct, Monsieur Land. Americans consume on average over 600 liters of water a day. All right! Followed closely by Canada. Don't! You see, Europeans are always much smarter about such things. Are we? You with your 16 showers a day? What? I never have more than 3. 3 showers a day?
What are you, like a coal miner?
You should talk, Jules. You who flushes the toilet after every pee-pee.
What, I like a clean bowl.
And you leave the water running when you wash your hands. Little hypocrite.
Oh, yeah? What about you and your baths? You leave the water running even when the bath is full.
Franchement, I like the sound of the tap. It reminds me of the rivers of my youth. Mais c'est la folie. You two have dried us out of water. This is all your fault. No, it's your fault, tabarnak.
No, it's your fault.
Aïe, hey, let go. Hey, how? Lâche-moi. Enough. It's my fault.
Huh?
I shut the water off. I knew it. He's going to bottle the water and sell it to us. I'm not a corporation, Monsieur Land, though I do hope to profit from my little experiment. Experiment, Professor Aronnax. Over all the years we have been together, I have come to realize that the Nautilus is like the Earth and that it is our common home. Until now, fresh water has been plentiful for you, enough to satisfy all of our needs, even to the greediest extremes. Don't look at me, kid. But you have all taken for granted what a precious resource fresh water is. Look what happened here. 5 minutes after water became scarce. Desperation, accusation, conflict, trivia. Imagine that on a planetary scale, and you will understand why I have decided to take action and withhold fresh water from you.
But the United Nations declared that access to water is a human right.
You forget, young man, that I am not bound to the United Nations or to any terrestrial rules. The water will stay off until you learn to manage it better. Together. Do I get a prize for winning the trivia? you may finish the water in the glass. All right.
So, anyway, that's the kind of thing that, as you can tell, very low tech, right? That's me playing with dolls again, doing all the voices on GarageBand and throwing it all together in Final Cut, like stuff that anyone really can do. But what we're doing is actually taking this to big corporations who do care about water and saying, if you have a message you want to deliver, we have ways of actually being fun and playful about it. And again, there are a lot of great people doing some really great stuff about the environment. It's just a matter of trying to sort through the ones who are just doing it to look good and the ones who actually want to do good. So anyway, I bring that to you only because I thought we're also doing stuff about raising awareness about, everything is tied together, raising awareness about girls, again, as I said before. But it all comes down to, really, to my girls in my life. And when I look at them, I want them to walk out of here and feel empowered that they can actually do something good in the world. I'll leave you with this last quote, and then maybe we can answer a few questions. And then hopefully this quote will leave you on a nice note. Ah, German again. He loves the Germans. Anyway, folks, that's the sort of preachy, motivational speaker message I like to leave you with, because you really can do a lot of good. And I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you all stayed. I hope you got something out of it. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your questions, your comments, even from the teachers back there. This is what we're doing. We're trying to make these presentations better. We need, and we want to be able to do this all over the place and have the kind of effect that we feel needs to be had around there. So again, give me your feedback and your questions, and I think we still have a few minutes, right?
Before our feedback, we've got to give you our applause.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess with that. And let's applaud the young man who made this happen. I'll put this with your recycling, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, is there anything you'd like to ask? I know you've had your video camera go on the whole time. Are you recording this for your environmental club? Is this sort of an archive? Cool. You know, again, write to me. I'm accessible. When I'm not on tour doing all these various projects, I like to communicate with young people. I need you, to be honest, to help sell the kind of stuff I want to do. I need the teachers' feedback as well. Little quotes you might give about what you felt about this, that'd be very useful to me and to Mike. Yes?
Are there any corporations that you wish people, perhaps in this room, would boycott?
I thought you were going to ask the complete opposite, that you wish people would support. There are some great corporations that I've found that, like Bullfrog Power, that are doing amazing things that I simply can't find much wrong to say about. Arnie can't find anything on them, you know. But corporations that I wish we'd boycott. I wish I was not drawn to these stupid aeroplane miles, because I think ExxonMobil is one of the worst perpetrators of not only, look, we need energy, and it's a very difficult issue these days about how to get energy in a sustainable way. And, you know, Shell Corporations is one of the biggest producers of clean energy in the world too. So it's a tricky, tricky subject. And yet, the opaque quality, the idea I joked before about saying no comment in 50 languages, ExxonMobil, if you read that book, and if you did a little digging, is one of the worst perpetrators of continued, not only greenwashing, but a kind of offense against what corporations should stand for. Corporations used to exist for the common good, and they're just so big and so powerful and so almighty that you can't even criticize them without being destroyed. So I happen to do it because there's nothing to it, right? They're not going to go after me for going into school and saying this. And yet, I would have to be careful if this became a television show, for instance, because Exxon is one of those, I can't find much good to say about them. As far as boycotting a corporation, I read Adbusters magazine sometimes, as much as I read conservative journals. And I try, as I was telling you before, when you asked what this was about, to me it's always about stepping back and looking at things from not necessarily the religious point of view. I mean religious in the sense that sometimes we're so certain about the train that we're on that we ignore all other information. And I feel that in the environmental movement sometimes, that people are so darn righteous that they almost shut themselves off in a certain sphere. That sometimes you have to be idealistic and realistic. So I'm not answering your question as to what corporations to boycott, because it's just not my kind of thing. I try to understand how these corporations work and to try to make them partner with people like us to have them actually use the money that I know they have to try and do something good. Because they're going to keep pumping for oil. It's not going to stop. And if they can't ship it to the US, it's just going to go elsewhere, right? So I guess that's maybe a cynical point of view. But I think an important thing to realize here, people sometimes wonder, well, what is Arnie? What is this cynical voice? I think it's important to carry a little cynicism in us. You could call it skepticism or an awareness that every story has another side to it. Because I think that we sometimes, like I said, get lost in our own fervor about a certain cause, that we tend not to see the other point of view. And there's some very smart, very principled people working on the right? On the right of the spectrum, that sometimes we as maybe lefties or left of centers don't read or don't pay attention to, and I think we should. It's not black or white. There's a lot of gray in there, and I try to wade my way through the gray and to see where, and I think also importantly, I'm answering your question in long-winded ways, as I often do, but it's a question of what do you feel inside on this given part of your lives, and how do you make your online presence and your actions, everything you do, as close as possible to who you truly are and what you're feeling. A lot of people put on a lot of masks and lie about themselves a lot. And I don't think that's actually a very healthy way to live. And I've tried to find what is the truth about how I feel. And that changes. It's not like I was born with the truth about who I am. It changes all the time. But I try to make sure that I walk the walk and talk the talk. That what I'm feeling, I'm acting on. So anyway, again, I didn't answer your question, but I hope it gave you something around the truth of what I think. Anyone else? I'd love to hear from some of you. Did you find what I had to say interesting? Was anything new? Anything, or did you know all this? You've seen me do this twice now. What did you think this time versus last time?
It was, I don't know, it was mostly the same. I think you added some new things though, right?
Again, I never quite know where I'm going to go, because I'm not trying to be all slick. I'm trying to be real, and real is how my brain works. I kind of flip through, I look at who's in the room, and you're a very different crowd from the crowd we had there, in a very different context. And so I try to keep it so that it's somewhat loose. I think that's part of the strength of this sort of presentation. It's not something that I'm just reading from a book, or you're not watching a movie. You're watching somebody who's actually in the room struggling to tell a story.
Rick performed for 250 students at my son's high school yesterday, and the marketing teacher said, well, you did my entire course in an hour. Thanks.
So, it touches on marketing. They had a lot of different teachers yesterday, which I really liked. They had the marketing students. They had the kind of more, I think, economics-driven students. They had the environmental. They had a lot of different folks. And I thought that's interesting because my talk really does try to talk about larger perspective. It's not just about the environment. It's about how the environment is one of the stools we need to stand on. We need to see the economy, the environment, and how we live in that being part of what sustains us. And often I think we tend to think of the environment as something to draw from, as it's all about the money, and so we need to draw as much as we can from the environment before sucking it dry. And I think the word economy comes from managing your home. And managing your home is taking care of the things and the people in it. And that's something we don't do very well. So ecology is, now I can't remember exactly where that comes from, but it's also the managing of... Study of your home, right. So managing your home and studying your home should be two very, very related things. And often they're just seen as, oh yeah, we have to take care of the environment and talk sustainable. It should really be part of everyone's thinking. It's not just changing light bulbs, right? It's about changing the way you look at the world and trying to get more people to see that way as well.
Can I add one?
Please.
When I originally talked to Mr. Sheehan, and thank you for all your help, I thought, it's about marketing, it's about consumerism. And then I started thinking about iPhones and cell phones, and after we spoke that night, I actually went on the internet and started looking up, because when I buy a new phone, I've got the iPhone 5, and I throw out my old phone, I take the battery out, and I recycle it, and I go to Staples, they do battery recycling. And I think, okay, boom, problem solved. Now, you guys maybe know this better than I do, but just because you recycle a battery doesn't mean there aren't any toxic effects or any sort of environmental effects later on. And I started reading about that. And then I started reading the numbers of cell phones in this world, and how quickly people get a new one, and how and it just keeps going. And am I making sense? You know where I'm going with this, right? And it's just, you think you're doing a good thing, and who am I harming because I'm recycling? But there's still the harm, this consumption over and over and over again of new products. And that's one of the things you talked about yesterday. You know, old is bad and new is good. And that's the main message of corporations, to keep consuming. That's my little addition.